I know you're watching this nice program. My name is Kenyange Kedrace, a teacher of English language and literature in English from Nalia SS Namgongo. I'm so happy to host you and to take you through this segment of learning together. I advise students to go for the narrative kind of questions where
Is the sound okay? Christian and Jovan, is the sound okay? Jovan? Okay. Please, if you find hard time hearing it, please notify me as early as possible. Okay.
You can feel free to imagine and describe and write everything that comes to you as it comes, okay? And therefore, whenever we are going to plan a narrative or a story that you're going to tell to your audience, the person that is reading your work, they should be hooked to whatever they are writing. And therefore, you need to plan for your writing. There is always a joke or something I heard from a student who once told me that, teacher, I write my stories very well, but the teacher gives me 8 or gives me 5. I don't know why teachers pretend as if they are in the action we are writing. I mean, that's my story. How come they are not, into what I am writing? That is because you don't plan your work. So today I want us to look at planning your narrative. How do you plan to write, okay? Some of us look at this exercise as tedious and, so big and you can't do such a thing. But this is good news. And I tell you that we can all get to that point where we can write the best composition ever imagined. So this is found in section B of the paper, and it is one question that we advise you to attempt. So when you're planning to write a narrative, and by narrative I mean a story, okay? And this story that is long and divided in paragraphs that we are supposed to read and understand. So when you're writing, please think through these few things that you're going to share, and I believe that with those you're going to have to write the best narratives. So we have you to think about the action in the story and how you're going to move it forward so that the examiner will like it. So many a time we plan our discussions. So some of us write from the moment you wake up. When you wake up, what happens? Supposedly you go for breakfast. After breakfast, you do something else. After that, so that is how your story is supposed to flow. What happens next? You are supposed to get to the point of creating characters. Make those characters perform certain actions, okay? You woke up in the morning and you felt lazy to wake up, you lazily moved to the bathroom. So in the mind of the reader, they are following whatever actions you are presenting on paper. So how you're going to make that character perform those actions is that thing that you are supposed to start with, okay? So after you do that, the action, and we must think about themes, okay? The themes in this discussion are the things that this character does and what you're thinking about. So the major ideas that we usually encourage you to discuss are school experiences, adolescence experiences, things that you are familiar with. What would you do writing a composition about, you about something that is really out of the ordinary and we cannot picture it with you. And let us write realistic compositions. Don't write a composition where you are a superhero and you could fly and you could, those are in the movies. We are looking at realistic presentations, and these presentations are real. Except when you're describing a dream, okay? A scary dream. How are you going to narrate it so that this person listening to you really gets what you are saying? So the other thing is number 2, make sure you are equipped with a variety of vocabulary, as this will help you glide through your story. And when I talk about gliding, I mean moving through it easily, So when you have the right words to use, it becomes so easy for you to follow through to the end of your composition. Okay, so you have the figures of speech. When you look at the figures of speech, there are quite many. We look at things like idioms, and idiom is a very, very important aspect if you want to encourage or take the attention, capture the audience when you are writing your story. Make sure they understand the idioms that you are using. Some of us are familiar with idioms, with proverbs, okay? So these are sayings that are, they have wise meanings and are usually hidden meanings. So the proverbs, the metaphors, the similes, let us use them as much as possible. So the vocabulary is very important because the words are what drives the narrative, the composition. So we have how to add spice to your writing. How do you add life to your story? Are you the kind that writes a flat composition, one action going on, and nothing really comes out? So we are supposed to add life to our story. Let us spice up our stories, because that writing is like cooking. The more spices we have, or the better we use them, okay, the better our composition is going to turn out. So those things add life to your story. So I want us to use this paragraph as an example, and I want you to look at it, read through it, and go with me in this journey as we discuss things to do with composition writing. Now we are writing a narrative, and most of all, your composition must have a title. So I'm using this paragraph as an example to show us that we can, when we're beginning a paragraph, we must do something like this, okay? So look at this paragraph. Let us read through it together, and I hope you're paying attention as we go through it. I awoke with a jolt from my divan after hearing a loud bang on my front door. Oh no, it was the landlord again. My heart beat like I was in a marathon, as I feared it would break my rib cage. I was 2 months late at that point, and I was as poor as a church mouse. Wake up, you lazy pig, he bellowed. My money, he added bitterly. I gingerly moved to the portal, but hardly had I opened it when its hinges flew off in the blink of an eye. So once you read this paragraph, you begin to realize that there is something more we are supposed to add to our stories, to our narratives, to make them better, to make them strike any person who would be reading this. So this would be different from just a person plainly saying, I awoke with surprise from my bed after hearing a
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry, I had mistakenly muted. I thought I was not muted. So I stopped the video. It's me who stopped the video and I stopped sharing. So I'm asking, I stopped it because we have to go on analyzing. Most Christian and Peter, you received the video. It is only Jovan who did not. And so on that short, clipped part of the video that you have just watched, we know there must be a title. 2, you must know what you're writing about. 3, you must consider the question. You must follow the question to the dot. So now, how do we choose a title as the first step? How do we choose a title? Yes, please. Someone to answer that question? Hello? Okay. Christian says the title should tell the reader something about the composition. Yes. Jovan says after writing your composition. Okay. Peter, what do you have to say? The title should be captivating and intriguing. Yes, that is correct. Okay, so the title of a composition is the first thing to be chosen, not like being the last thing. After you have written the composition, then you go to choosing the title. No. Peter says it should be realistic. Yes, it should. So Christian should be captivating and intriguing. So a title of the passage comes from the question. That's one. Let's say if they have asked you, write a composition titled A Day I'll Never Forget. So you must use a day you'll never forget. Or write an imaginative composition. Write a composition of the best wedding I've ever attended. So the title comes from the question that you have been given. So 1, 2, this title should be very short, precise and concise, less than 10 words. And 1 word is not enough. You can use an idiom to be the title. You can use a proverb to be a title. You can use a saying to be a title. So the title should be very captivating, very intriguing, and realistic. It should be short, having a limited number of words between maybe 2 to 10, but not exceeding 10 words. And so that's one. Now we go to the other things that the lady has talked about in the facilitation. So when you're writing a composition, you must know which type of composition are you writing. Is it a descriptive composition? Is it a narrative composition? Is it a persuasive composition or argumentative composition, argument composition, or it is corrugative? So you must know which type of composition you are using so that you find the correct words. 3, the planning of this composition. Of course, you must know a composition should have the beginning, that is the introduction. It should have the body, that is the main. So these 3 parts should never be intermixed. So for that note, never intermix these 3 parts. They should be independent. There should be a distinction between introduction and the body. And you have been told already that in the introduction, there is need for you to introduce your subject, what you're talking about. Let's say you're talking about your family at home. So you must introduce that family. Who is there? How do they look like? what is the relationship between the people at home. So you must introduce where do you live and the physical address. How do people look like? So that is the introduction. Then in the body, you go on to talk about what is your intention, what do you intend to communicate to the reader. And finally is the conclusion. So in this case, the other thing is that when you're writing a composition, be mindful and give places and people and maybe animals or characters names. So these characters should have names. Do not say, in our place where I come from, they are good people. We have men who are good. We have women who are also good. So that is not the right thing. Give the place a name, give the people names, and give all the other characters, even if it is an insect. We have what we call, as Peter and Kristen we started, we have what we call personification. Personification is where you give as non-human the qualities of a human being. So in that case, when you are writing a composition, you can give insects names, you can give trees names, you can even give them qualities of a human being. They can talk. Maybe there is one composition I read where someone moves. So they said that the man, he was so much respected that even when he passed through the trees could bend low to give him respect, and they say, our boss. So the trees are speaking and they are bending, or they are giving an individual respect, and yet the trees do not do that. That is being said. You give them names, you give them characters, rather qualities that make them distinct from the others. Then the other thing is when you're writing your composition, it is advisable to use idioms, to use proverbs, to use the vocabularies that capture the attention of the reader or the examiner. So your composition should be convincing, should be natural, and it should be real. So when there are some books that we read, I don't know, there is a book called The Palm Wine Drinker. There are some movies we watch. Maybe let me use an example of a movie. Let's say BFG, Best Friendly Giant. So those animals, we think they are actually there, they exist, and yet they do not exist. So these animals have been even given names. If you follow them well, maybe Jurassic Park. Yes, Big Friendly Giant, Kristen watched it. So you may think that those animals do exist, and yet in actual sense, they do not. So they are so convincing. I remember the scene where one of them stood on two tankers, armed tankers. They are very small, the guys are very big, so they stood on two armed tankers and started as if they are skating. And so they become real. Sometimes you think it is very real, and you even identify yourself with that particular character, and yet it is just created, or it is just imagined, and so it is acted. So you use idioms, you use vocabularies, you use proverbs, you use sayings, you use any other artillery that you do have. Do not write a flat composition that when, like in Palm Wine Drinker, the English is very fake. In that book, they say, I went to visit Peter. When I visited Peter, Peter cooked. When Peter cooked, we ate. When we ate, we talked. When we talked, he gave us tea. When we ate, he gave us tea. We drank it. When we drank it, we went home. So that is the English that is in that text. Yeah. So do not write a flat English, and avoid, and for God's sake, I repeat, avoid repetitions. Like what I've just said. I went to visit Peter. When I went to visit Peter, Peter cooked. When Peter cooked, we ate. After eating, we talked. After talking, we moved. After moving, that repetition is not advisable, and please, it is penalized. So divide give your composition a sense of touch, that when someone reads it, someone may think that it is real. And this explains why when we read a book or when we watch a movie, we identify ourselves with some characters. You can watch maybe a movie and say, this person behaves like Peter. You can read a book and say, this person behaves like our teacher. Oh, this person behaves like my brother. This person behaves like my sister. So that is the art of composition writing. When you're writing a composition, it must come out as if it is real, and yet even if it is imagined. So that is being said. The other thing, you write your composition in paragraphs. Just write maybe 3-4 lines, 5-6, go to another paragraph. Keep the paragraph short, but write in paragraphs. And maybe you can use indented. If you're typing, you can use block. So write in paragraphs, and for that matter, use adverbial phrases. Could someone give me an example of an adverbial phrase? Peter, could you give me an example of an adverbial phrase? Kristen, also, please give me an example of adverbial phrases. I'm waiting. You looked at me in a strange way, okay? I slowly walked into the misty garden, okay? Peter, where's yours? Jovan, welcome back. We're talking about use of adverbial phrases in composition writing. Pardon, I have poor network. I'm saying, could you give me an example of an adverbial phrase? The flowers shall bloom in May. Okay, that one is taking too long. So use these adverbial phrases and adjectival phrases. So adverbial phrases, these are phrases that add more meaning to a sentence, and an adjective phrase is, these are phrases that add more meaning to nouns and pronouns. You know, it comes from the adverb, it comes from a verb. Then use what we call joining phrases, joining clauses. Like all that being said, to add an insult to an injury. Before I go much far, this and this, so those ones are used at the beginning of the sentence. Maybe those words like conjunctions like there or far, henceforth, therein, those words they add a sense of touch to a composition. When you use them, it shows a sense of maturity, and the composition comes to life compared to someone who has not used any of those. So I don't know for that. So far where we are, is there anyone with the question? Peter, do you have any question? Okay. A minute. Okay. I was silent for a minute. Okay, now, could someone kind request? Could we? Okay. Could we suggest a title to any passage that we could wish to write about, and we see how this title can be formulated? Or maybe I give you a question. Let me see. Someone, please. I'm saying that, could you suggest a title of a passage that we can write? Yes, please. No. Yeah, the passage should be about love. Let's go. Yes, please. Peter and Kristen. To hell and beyond. Okay. That is from Kristen. Peter. Peter. Oh, Peter has gone off. Okay, Kristen, I don't know your mic. Are you in position to speak now? Kristen? No, okay. Okay, bad network. Sorry, Peter. I wanted someone to give me, let's say, Kristen, give me a paragraph on that title that you have given, so that when I listen to the first paragraph and I look at the title, I can know that now this title is okay, or it is lacking something. Now, what should we do about this now that the mics are off? Peter, are you you're not yet in position to speak? Peter. Peter, can you speak now? Peter. I'll leave it to that maybe. So let me explain some other thing. That what I've attempted, like what Kristen gave me, you gave me your title as being to hell and beyond. So please, I will send you a question and you write a composition based on that title. Is that okay? So after that, that will be an imaginative, creative, or it can also be a narrative composition. So we go to an argument composition. An argumentative composition, some say argumentative. An argumentative composition is where you are given the question. You have to either support it or not. For example, yeah, it is really annoying, Peter. Okay, an example of an argumentative composition is educating a girl child is a wastage of money or of resources. Discuss. So that is an argumentative composition. You have to argue for, you have to be either pro or against educating the girl child. So for that note, when you're writing that argumentative composition, you first have to introduce. So you have to introduce, oh, this is a question. This is so fast. Okay. Christian says, as the battle raged on, I looked around me, young boys and men of old fighting side by side for a common cause. The king was bound to listen to us now. Our women and children starved. Our women and children starved as he and his goats fattened themselves on the labor of our backs. The kingdom was starving. This could not go on. You had asked for the first paragraph. Yeah. Thank you. It says this paragraph to hell and beyond. It means this is a correct paragraph. So in the other part of the composition, I expect you to talk about the so much suffering that these people went through on as a result of bad leadership from the king and the ruling class. So to hell and beyond means these people went to hell, and even hell, as if hell was not enough, there was a worse place, more worse than hell. So this is a correct composition. Could you maybe arrange is let's say 400? Sorry. 400 to so if maybe if you can rate a full composition of that range, 350 to 450, then you send it for consideration. That would be okay. I don't know, Peter, are you on now? Is your network okay? Okay. So I was still, but before I forget, Peter and Christian, is it okay if we met at 8? I do not have power here. I don't know by then if I will, power will have come back. So, but for now, I do not have power here. So if by then I have power on my computer or on my phone, we will have to meet at 8 for literature. Okay. Okay, so you just keep on. I will just come in case I have. If you do not see me, I'll just notify you using a WhatsApp message or an email. Okay, so now an argumentative composition, as I told you, when the question was educating, the open quotes, educating a girl child is a wastage of resources. Full stop, close quotes, then discuss. So for this, you have to introduce that question. So how do you introduce? When you're introducing, you give facts or a brief background. So what do we mean when we say girl child education? What is involved as in resources when educating this girl? Do we have an example of women who are educated, or in what is the percentage education achievement rate of women vis-a-vis men? What is the community perspective or attitude towards educating a girl child? So after that, that's when you state where do you belong? Are you against or pro educating the girl child? So after stating that, you start giving reasons that support your point of view. So when you're giving a point of view, you must you state a point, then give an example to it and explain it. That is maybe 3 to 4 lines for each point. So in one paragraph, there should be only one point. Do not mix ideas, not put 2, 3 ideas in one paragraph. A paragraph should have only one idea for argumentative composition. So, and in the conclusion, you must you restate which side, where do you belong? Is it pro or against? So that is what I can simply talk about an argumentative composition. Is there any question about that? Okay, no. Peter, do you have a question? Okay, it is just 5 minutes to time. I think I'll have to end here. Peter and Christian have sent you more work on email. You can read through alongside the work on the site. alongside the work on the site to inform you better about composition writing. Then if there's no any other question, if there's no any other question, I wish to stop from here and wish you a blessed evening. Okay, thank you, True Christian. Bye. Peter, bye.